Hi, Stu.
Hello.
Teresa just emailed you and me, but I can't do it. A link she asked to share.
Okay.
So
I'm happy to share it.
if you've got the email.
Yeah, I just got it. I actually wasn't planning on attending tonight because I didn't know there was a meeting.
Oh, why not? I did send out the
I never
mail,
got an
and
announcement.
seriously, so sad. I mean, I never know if I mean, I have no control over, we send on MailChimp, but what's received and what's not received.
Right. I never got anything. Anyway, I posted the link in the chat.
Thank you. I don't know what it is. Oh, I do. It does relate to tonight's meeting. So you don't know what's on the agenda or anything.
No.
So it's all the main agenda item, and we are not, I mean, it's 7 o'clock, but I'm gonna wait another minute or two. It's the building and safety proactive code enforcement program, just a discussion, which is
Okay.
now active in Jefferson Park and Harvard Heights.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's
that
all news to me.
was news to me too. So let's see what this link does.
Looks like it's data.
Oh, very nice. Okay. We'll come back to that. Hi, Steve.
So, okay.
Hi, other Steve, I should say. Hi, Steve Wallace. I've already said hi to Steve Peckman.
It's a meeting of Steves.
No, and Google Pixel 8, who will find out who that is.
I bet his name is Steve too.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
The Steve Club.
Well, I was under the impression that Teresa is joining us, but maybe not, since she asked you to post that link.
Well, I'll respond to her.
Okay. All right. So I think it may as well just start the meeting and say hello more officially. So we'll do the official. My name is Laura Myers. Not doing this right, facing the screen instead of the screen. And I am the co-chair of United Neighborhoods, Neighborhood Council's Planning and Zoning Committee. And I am also on the UNNC board. I am its vice president. And I'd like everybody to introduce themselves. And I am going to share the agenda. Oh, here comes Teresa. I'm going to share the agenda in the meantime. So if we could start with Steve Peckman, then Steve Wallace, and just introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Steve Peckman. I'm in Jefferson Park. I've been participating in this committee for almost 20 years.
Oh my God. So
and
that
if there's anything to vote on, I intend to vote.
Right. And I will go through the standing rules. I don't think there is anything to vote on though. And Steve Wallace.
Hi, Steve Wallace, Harvard Heights.
Okay. And I know this is Teresa.
Hi, everybody. Yes, Teresa Masonette, representing West Adams Avenues on the board.
And we have one more person present, but I've just seen Google, a Google phone. If you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself, I'd appreciate it.
That's you.
Hi, we are Alex and Hazel. Can you guys hear us?
Yes, thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, well, Alex and Hazel, and we are in Mid-City. This is our first time joining the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Monday, we're there on Monday.
Okay. So let me just quickly go through the agenda. Are you all able to see the agenda up on the screen? Yes?
Yes.
We just did welcome, call to order, quickly a review of UNNC's standing rules for committee stakeholder voting participation. And that basically, the way UNNC sets up its committees, we appoint our chairs and co-chairs, but otherwise anyone who is a stakeholder may robustly and actively participate in the committee meetings, not just in the discussions, but can make motions, can vote. Our committees make recommendations to the governing board. They're not final decisions. What is a stakeholder? Someone who lives, works, owns property, may have a child in a local school, may attend church within the UNNC footprint, and or participates in a community-based organization, a charitable 501c3 nonprofit kind of organization, which has a brick and mortar address within our UNNC footprint. So, so for voting purposes, if you meet those definitions of stakeholder, you may vote on the committee. And we usually do voting affirmations, but since tonight I don't think we're voting, I don't think we need to go actually through that. And then our item number 2 is general public comments, and that would be any announcement or comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but which may be within the broad purview of the land use committee or UNNC in general. Item 3, which is the meat of our agenda, is a discussion regarding the building and safety, or LADBS, proactive code enforcement PACE program, which is active again and is currently in targeted neighborhoods in Jefferson Park and Harvard Heights. And then our usual item 4 would be follow up to previous cases, any conversation about anything that was on the early notification system, cases filed email, which wasn't much, or any old business, and then adjourn. So are there any questions on the agenda? I'm going to stop the share and bring everybody back up and move on to, are there any general public comments or announcements? I do have one. Anybody else? So just, it's not exactly land use, but this weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, in Harvard Heights, actually, on Washington Boulevard, well, in Arlington Heights, on Washington Boulevard at Ardmore in Washington, and then also at 6th and Washington, there is a 2 parts of 4 international mural making event. And it's basically with live murals being drawn. Steve, I'm surprised it doesn't involve you, but I think it does not involve you. And live music, refreshments, and stuff going on. So I just want to let people know. Coincidentally, it's also, it's not timed to this, it's just a coincidence of timing. The Great Los Angeles Walk is also on Saturday, November 23rd. It's the 19th annual Great Walk. And this year they're walking from USC to UCLA, and the route is from Exposition Park, north on Vermont to Washington. And then hundreds of people will be walking west on Washington and will happen to intersect this mural event. So it's a coincidence. They probably don't each know about the other. UNNC may or may not be there. Hunter and I are debating about it.
Is this a permanent painted mural?
Well, it's not a singular mural. I see it at 6th Avenue. They've already started. So they're covering the building on the northeast corner, and now the fence on the southwest corner. I feel like it's rather more ephemeral because the building's for sale. So I don't know that I mean, the California law usually says it has to be 3 years, but Wallace could probably tell us a little more. Are they no longer enforcing the 3-year thing?
LA City's 2 years. Has
Right,
to be registered. I mean, you have to go through an entire process and you just want to smack your head into the wall. It's that cumbersome. And it's like the city departments couldn't care less, and they encumber you every step of the way. It's really burdensome, but 2 years.
Is there a
Yeah.
lead muralist responsible for this project?
there's an organization, now you're asking me too many questions.
Okay.
I might have an answer during the course of this meeting, because I did get sent an email from Council District 10 with a link, but the link wasn't very good. I mean, in other words, CD10 is on board with this, not the Harvard Heights Neighborhood Association, but the West Adams Heights Sugar Hill Neighborhood Association is kind of co-sponsoring, but all that really meant was they said yes to agree to support it. But they also have a location, the event also has a location in Pico Union and a location in downtown, and then it's in other cities as well. So it's kind of a big deal that we know nothing about. But it's happening, it'll be happening here. That's all I can say.
So can I ask something?
Sure.
There is a mural of I don't know what areas do you guys cover, but we have noticed there's a mural, the one on Pico and Vermont, of it's like a mural of the priest.
Of the
remember?
priest from El Salvador.
The priest, Monsignor Romero, and it has a lot of graffiti on it. Do you guys do anything
That's
about it?
Yeah, that's not our neighborhood council, but I think if it's literally on the corner of Pico and Vermont, I think there's a business improvement district there called the Byzantine Latino BID. And I think they could take some responsibility. I mean, I can reach out. So it's covered with graffiti. Is that the issue?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I will contact them and see if that's within their thing. But otherwise, the neighborhood council would be it's called Pico Union Neighborhood Council.
It is in that area, yes.
Yeah, and that's the name of the neighborhood council.
Okay, and you will you will reach out?
I will reach out to the business improvement district. I don't know who to reach out to. I could figure it out, to the neighborhood council.
Okay.
I have
Steve?
suggestion. Talking at the gas station is that where the northwest corner of Pico?
Right outside.
Yeah, so there is the business on the is as you go from Arlington and Pico to Vermont, it's on your right side. You cross the street, it's on the other side of the street. It's I think the gas station is on the other corner. Yeah. On the other side of
There's a guy, he's a muralist who was doing a lot of murals in that area. I can give you his number and you can call him and say that a guy named Steve gave you his number, and he may know who the artist is, because generally the artists themselves have to come out to restore the mural. Many times they don't even care and they just let it get tagged up. And the city generally, if it's a mural, is hesitant to paint over murals, even if they're not registered. So you need to talk to KYCC about that, if to get it painted out. But it sounds like you don't want to get it painted out. So I'll give you this guy's number. Maybe he knows who the artist is.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be unfortunate if it was painted out. Archbishop Romero is a very, very important personage, not only in Latin America, but across the globe, who gave his life for freedom. So I think that this is a mural that should certainly be protected.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what my husband told me. I didn't even notice, but everything has been covered. You can only see his face. I'll take the number.
That's the problem. When it gets that bad, generally, the artists are okay with that as well, just painting it out and starting all over again. But, you need to get the original artist's permission. I mean, that's kind of street rules, but the guy's name is Espy, E-S-P-Y. That's
Okay.
his street name, E-S-P-Y, Espy. His number is 310
Uh-huh.
739
Uh-huh.
8160.
Okay. I got it.
Okay, we'll call SB.
Okay,
Thank you.
so this was an interesting accidental thing I brought up. Okay, so are there any other general public remarks or announcements, or can we move on to the agenda item? Okay, so thank you. Basically, what has happened is I've begun to get contacted by a number of our stakeholders complaining that building and safety is back giving out citations, but then the citations become actual code enforcement violations for things like too much stuff on their front porch, or their paint is chipping, or the vegetation, is overgrown. So that it's, what used to be called and is called again, the PACE program, proactive code enforcement. I thought the program had died a good death some years ago. This was originally part of, you might remember the police chief Bratton had the whole broken windows thing. And at the same time, the Community Redevelopment Agency thought it sounded like a good idea to eliminate blight by going, by doing small citations. So if you fix the broken windows, maybe things don't get worse. But the complaints got very worse because it turned out that they were targeting, this is like a decade or more ago, it turned out they weren't targeting senior citizens or people on low budgets, but the result was they hit senior citizens and others who were on fixed income or low budgets, and they couldn't afford to fix the things they were being cited for, and the program did not come with money. It just came with code violations and threats of fines. So I was surprised to hear that it started again. I did call the head of code enforcement for building and safety, and actually to my surprise, he called back in 10 minutes. And he said, yep, it is. We are doing PACE again. We're doing it in 5 targeted areas. They're targeted by census tract. And 2 of them happen to be within UNNC, Jefferson Park, parts of, I don't know exactly where, in Jefferson Park, and Harvard Heights, parts of Harvard Heights. So since I already knew that, because I already knew people in both places that were getting cited. And what he told me was, this is what he told me, that typically we don't start a program in a neighborhood unless it was authorized by the council office. It seems weird that it would have been authorized by Council District 10 in an election year, because it's not a popular program, but it's possible. And that what they usually give out citations for is to clean up the front yard, for chipped paint, for damaged vehicles parked visibly in the front yard, excessive vegetation, graffiti on your property, so that makes sense, and that this was federally funded through CDBG funds, which we'll get to that in a moment, but it's a federally funded program. And that a part of what they do, it's for things that are a blight to the eye. And that he said, we give out flyers about the handyman program, and this is only within specific census tracts. So I am not sure that what I just said is completely accurate, because at least one person who got cited, or at least 2 people I've talked to who've gotten cited, were not in fact given any flyers about the handyman program, or any flyers about resources. And they were just, one of them was told paint his whole house, and the other was told to paint all of the trim and the fascia board. So these are not inexpensive repairs. Steve. Heck,
My
So
hand
when
is
you
up, too.
when you say that DBS had chosen communities by census tract, I don't even know what that means.
well, I'm gonna, if with your permission, I'll say a few more things, show you some documents. And then we
Okay.
can have a robust discussion. So I thought that was interesting.
I have my hand up too, Laura. Laura?
Do you? I hear
Yeah,
you. Okay.
sorry,
I don't
I don't
see
know how
your
to put my
hand
hand-
up. Yeah,
I
it's
don't know how to
okay.
do it, but I emailed you and Steve.
Correct.
Peckman.
We got it.
Yeah, I don't know if you got it or not. Oh, okay.
We did,
I-
yeah, we did. So there's a chart that we haven't looked
Okay.
at, but I've got it ready to go to look at it. So let me
Oh,
just tell you,
okay.
let me tell you all what my exploration was, and then we will go on to that. So I did two things. I looked in the city clerk's council file management system to see if I could find PACE or proactive code enforcement or anything about this. And the only thing I actually found was a motion back in 2017 that has expired. I'm going to show it to you. I can get to it. That from Mitchell, the Council District 13, Mitch, whoever he was. But essentially,
Englander. Mitch
okay, actually,
Englander.
is this Englander? So that's not 13. No, Mitchell Farrell, Council District 13.
Yeah.
So, but it's expired anyway. This motion, if you can see the screen, says, in an effort to combat plight, LADBS patrols, I love that word, low-income neighborhoods and issues courtesy notices to property owners with code violations. And they recently being 2017, issued a series of so-called courtesy notices in Atwater Village, but they used a outdated interpretation of the municipal code and effectively took a punitive approach towards low-income neighborhoods. Well, they're using the same code now. And this was pissing him off, it appears. And it's not really being used to combat blight, but instead, according to the motion, it's causing an undue burden on our residents, especially those in low-income neighborhoods. Anyway, this is the motion. The reason I'm bringing it up, and it's in the agenda packet, is it just died on the vine. Nothing ever happened with this. So we have a council office that was getting complaints, and then it did not stop the program. So I thought it was kind of interesting that they mentioned it's federally funded. And I then looked up the budget that, the city's budget, and thinking I would find something authorizing this to be used again, to start the program. So what I see in the budget is this is again where the money comes from: Community Development Block Grants, CDBG program. And it's to promote viable urban communities through decent housing, expanded economic development, and comprehensive social services. And the amount of the budget estimated for last fiscal year and this fiscal year again, is about 21 million. You can see it shows 300,000, 285 for this fiscal year over on the right-hand side. And of that, what I saw then in our current budget, you can see in the middle column, estimated 2023-24, that if you go down, you can see 1,400,000 for building and safety. But when I then looked at the building and safety budget for this year, that number, 1,400,000, shows up as the money they're using that is federal funds, but it doesn't say for PACE or anything else. It doesn't tell us anything about what they're using the funds for, but apparently at least some of it for this program. So Teresa, the
Wait.
thing
Wait. In the current fiscal year, Isn't
shows
the
zero.
budget for building and safety zero?
From CD, yes, that's what it's showing. So you want to see the,
So it's
That's what
gone from 1.4 million to zero. So they
No,
currently
no,
don't even
no.
have a budget.
No, that's not exactly what happened. What happened, it seems, is that last year's CDBG is being used this year in building and safety. I'll show you. You're now looking at the building and safety budget. I'm trying to, can you now see that where it's showing expenditures, appropriation, sources of funds? And if you see under sources of funds, the 1,400,000.
But wait,
They carried it over, it appears. See
so,
how
but what's on the right-hand column?
Well, I know in the right-hand side it says zero, but he's saying that that's what where they got the money. I'm just telling you what I was being told. And otherwise, there's no reference, 000, nothing in the budgets for having this program, but the program is happening now. That's all I'm trying to say. It's a mystery to me. If you're saying, wait a minute, you're right. Because
I'm saying that according to their own documents, they don't have a budget this year for that program.
Well, we don't even know if they're really using the Community Development Trust Fund funds for the program.
But that's what he said they were doing.
I can't vouch for what he said being accurate.
Well, I recognize that, but what I'm pointing out is that if he's saying that they have a budget through this grant, which the city says they don't, then something is not smelling right.
Well,
here.
or it's carryover funds. That's all I can say.
If it's carried over, it has to be designated.
Well, only if you're a neighborhood council.
No.
Where they state, well, no. Steve, I hear what you're saying, and I was just being a little bit cynical. Yes, if you're a neighborhood council, you have to really, really, really show to the penny what you're carrying over. But it sounds like some of these departments, that's not exactly a requirement. But it also could be that that's not the source of the funding. Or it also could, I mean, because there's nothing here. I mean, what I'm saying is I looked through the entire city budget document, however many hundreds of pages it is. And I don't mean I looked on every page, but I searched on every page of the budget for the word enforcement, for the phrase proactive, for the phrase pace, both with periods and without periods. I'm saying that right. And let me tell you, that was a pain in the you-know-what, because the word space, S-P-A-C-E, comes up quite a bit. So I went through the entire budget. I did not see this program in it. So I just wanted to show you that there's no there. So you don't have to argue about that there's no there, because I know there's no there. So I'm going to stop the share and then go to what Teresa sent us, and she can explain what it is.
Well, I think there's a lot of important data in that document that Teresa sent, because that's from the controller's office, right?
I don't know.
Right. Oh, am I unmuted?
You're fine. Yes. And I'm not sure what it is I'm sharing, but it's the document you shared with us, Teresa.
Am I unmuted?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Okay, thanks. Yes, I can. So thank you, Laura and Steve, and for sharing that document. I was trying to gather more information, and I was able to find this. But so just so I know what we're trying to discuss tonight, is it about where the funding came from, or are we actually going to talk about that there seems to be more enforcement in South LA, and if that's right or wrong? Are we going to get to that?
I think Teresa, I think it's all of the above. It's like,
okay,
where the funding come is not the most important. It's just, I looked at that to see if there was even ever a council vote approving it. You know, in other words, if it's in a budget, at least nominally somebody voted yes, right? it's not there. So, and there's no council file saying, yeah, let's start it again. So I don't know. I mean, I call it a negative pregnant. I don't know how this happened. So that's thing number one. And are they targeting poor neighborhoods? I think the answer to that is yes, but which ones exactly? I mean, we know parts of Jefferson Park by census tract, which parts, don't know. Parts of Harvard Heights, don't know exactly which parts. And 3 other neighborhoods that apparently are not here.
Right, but my question also, is it wrong for them to be targeting these neighborhoods? Because maybe there is sufficient blight, and maybe the council district has recommended, because it's received complaints of, you know, paint chips and abandoned cars and driveways and other, you know, issues like that. And that's why, I mean, like you mentioned, Council District 10 must have requested this. And I will go back a few years when Mary Jones and Mark Ridley Thomas were in office. When he was in office, she was his deputy. She reached out to me and probably other members on the UNNC asking if there were any abandoned cars on homes. You know, we have a lot of residential single-family homes in the avenues that appeared to be abandoned. And I gave her, you know, a couple of addresses. So I just assumed that they were just going to reach out to them and provide them with funding to do something about it, and not necessarily a citation. So, okay.
Okay, so I see what you found. I mean, I'm scrolling down this document from the controller, and the very last thing is it references the PACE program.
Right.
But again,
and you can click on each one of those bars and it will tell you exactly how many citations have been issued.
Okay, so when you say that, and I see, Steve, that you have, okay, 746 citation. Oh no, PACE.
So if you look in South LA.
Oh my God, 11,500. Oh, okay, this is great. PACE has issued 11,500 citations, I guess. Is that
yes? But that's probably for you know, for the entire city, not just South LA.
correct?
But we can, right.
And then
Okay.
South LA, the aggregate of all the kinds of cases is 17,939. But we don't know which of those are PACE and which of those might be something else. Correct?
Right. Correct. Well, the way I read it, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So should I keep
Because
this chart?
it also has contract nuisance abatement programs, so that
Yeah, well,
CNAP or
that's
whatever
much more major.
right.
That
So
I know what it
that's
is.
so high.
Yeah, I know what contract nuisance abatement is. It's not at all controversial. It's almost always a totally abandoned and vacant house that isn't vacant because people are living there and it causes, you know, it's causing problems in the community. That would be the CNAP, right? And they've got 400 of those, presumably throughout the city. And those are the houses that are catching on fire. You know, I mean, that wouldn't be a particularly controversial thing. You know, I think what's controversial, and then I will let Steve talk, and I just want to know if I keep this up or don't keep it up.
Please keep it up.
Okay, I think what's controversial is if they're going in low-income neighborhoods and doing citations, not for overgrown vegetation, and certainly not for if you're working on cars in your front yard, but if you're citing people to paint their houses, when the cost of painting a house can be $10 or $20 or $30,000, and not providing financial resources, I think that's the problem. to me. Okay, that's my opinion. Steve Peckman.
So I would generally agree with you, Laura. I think the devil here is really in the details, and we don't have
Right.
enough details to really understand what's going on.
Exactly.
So I could try to put a good spin on LADBS, but I am not prone to do that due to other issues with them. But I think that my concern is when you look at the number, if you go back to South LA and you look at the number of cases, I mean, that's a
Right.
humongous number of cases. Right. So that's 17,000, almost 18,000 cases over
Right.
a period of time.
Right.
And considering the scope of what those cases might be, my concern is one, picking on a neighborhood that's already underserved by the city for things that may not be that crucial. I don't know what they mean by overgrown, for example, and I don't know what they mean by paint chipping. There's paint chipping, and then there's a house that hasn't been maintained. I certainly
Right.
know that in the greater West Adams neighborhood, there are houses that could use a refresher paint job that wouldn't warrant this kind of citation. And there are houses that have absentee landlords that have not kept up the facility at
Sure.
all, and apartment buildings and businesses. And
Yes,
so,
and this is not limited to single family homes,
right,
but it is not, but it is also not apartment buildings, because building and safety can only do code enforcement for single family homes and commercial buildings. That's their
okay,
job.
okay.
So,
We've seen degraded commercial buildings as well.
sure.
So
So we don't know.
I feel like we could be doing a lot of barking here without really knowing what's going on. And I'm
Yes.
wondering if this isn't an opportunity to have someone from a high level from LADBS come and talk to us about this program.
Well, and also I think we need to formulate the questions.
I think it's
and
hard to
I
formulate
agree
the
with
questions
Steve.
without knowing the details of what they're
Correct.
doing.
And I agree with Steve. Thank you.
So
Well-
I would like to have a part 2 of this discussion where
Oh, absolutely.
LADBS provides us with a presentation
Mhm.
that goes into some detail about what these citations are, what they're looking for, what they're not looking for.
Right.
Right? What does it mean that they're being guided by their visits by census tract? I don't know what that means.
Well, yes, how did they pick,
Right.
well, they're identifying census tracts, but so they're working within census tracts. I got that much, but which ones and what guided their selection of the-
Exactly. So there are
Yes.
all these types of questions that we have. I don't think that we can answer tonight. I think this
Right.
is very concerning. I think the budget question is concerning as well, but that's kind of underlying these other things, which is
Yeah,
how do they have a budget to even do this if they have a zero
Right.
budget in the current fiscal year?
right. Or
So I
is
think
that one?
there are a lot of issues here that
Lot
we
of
could
questions.
resolve with a robust
Right.
discussion with LADBS. Thank you.
Correct. And I'm pretty sure, since he specifically identified the CDBG funds, that 1.4 million must be it. But that said, how do we know for sure?
Well, I
meaning,
would just like to say,
Raising my hand.
having worked on state budgets for 30 years of my career at UCLA, you don't
Uh-huh.
get to say we have zero funds available and then
Got
draw
it.
on some other account to fill that in. That's just not allowed.
okay, Teresa wanted to say something.
Yes, thank you. So I have two comments, especially if we're going to bring somebody in. The citations that they're issuing, were they notifications that came in through 311? That is one. And also about HPOZ, because, James is on the HPOZ and he has made many complaints to DBS about violations.
Right. Yeah, I can answer that one. Theoretically, these are not complaint based. They're sending out team members. There's a person in charge. They're sending out people in the census tracts and looking for things. It's not complaint based.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
They have talked, he said, the person I talked to has spoken with Christina Parks at the HPOZ, she's the head of the HPOZ unit, to confirm that it wouldn't cost a person money. I'm not saying this right. They wouldn't have to do a major application that costs money in order to paint. So that, which we all know, because as part of the HPOZ ordinance is to not charge fees for I need to paint my house, you know, that kind of application. But I don't know that that's good enough. Again, one of the people who's been cited sent me copies of all the correspondence related to that. I'm trying to be very vague here, related to that person's house. And the initial communication was a sort of a, you know, a citation that's a warning, but she did not, I didn't ask why, meaning I don't know if it's financial or what, but she did not paint, and now is facing a $1,400 fine. And I've seen the letter. So, so it moves to regular code enforcement, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It starts out as a citation based, but eventually transfers into the normal complaint based kind of code enforcement, where you get fines if you don't respond in 30 days. So apparently. Okay, Steve Wallace.
So if I understand.
I'm sorry, Teresa, you're not.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Teresa,
no,
we can't
never mind.
tell. Okay, Steve Wallace.
Yeah. I don't know how to raise my hand. Sorry, Laura. Never mind.
Oh, I think it's *6, but could be
No, that's
*9.
to unmute. Oh,
Okay,
I'll try
try
*9 next time.
*9. Okay, well, I saw Steve Wallace with a hand up.
Yeah, so I have been talking extensively with a lot of people in Harvard Heights who have been cited, as well as the building and safety inspector, Inspector Bales. And it has so far, to my knowledge, to the people, and I've probably talked to maybe about 6 people who have been cited, and it hasn't been contentious. Of course, as soon as they're cited, they are freaking out and very afraid, as anyone would be. To my knowledge, when Inspector Bales cites someone, he does give them information for the handy worker program. I think it's a flyer, and he does talk to them about that.
Okay.
He attempts to reach these people who have been cited, and knowing building and safety, the last thing they want is for someone to ignore their citations. And so I did speak with a woman who had been ignoring it. She knew better. And then he kind of got serious with her and threatened her with a fine, but he did make every attempt to get back to her. She realized kind of what the situation was. And as long as she was working towards the goal of painting the fascia on her house, then as long as she understood what he was asking for, she immediately called me, and I kind of walked her down off the cliff. And then she did reach out to him, and they did have a wonderful conversation. I found Inspector Bales to be a really warm person, very understanding. He's got a job to do, but he also understands that it can be very intimidating. And to a person, the people who have spoken to him about their citations have, once they understood what the issue was, worked towards remedying that. And I think every person, it's been a paint issue. And I think, and then I was giving some references for some, basically, I'm going to say low budget, but good quality painters that could help them. And as I walked through the neighborhood, Eileen and I walked with Blake basically every single day, every evening, and we have witnessed other homes that are starting to get painted. As it relates to HPOZ, Bales tells them that as long as they paint the house the exact colors that it currently is or was, then they don't have to get HPOZ approval. It's grandfathered in. And yes, I've confirmed that with him and also with the residents. I was actually thrilled to hear that Pace was coming back because, as Steve said, there are a lot of absentee landlords, and we will complain and complain, putting complaints online from building and safety, and those complaints are at the absolute bottom of their list. There's like 2 guys that cover like this part of the city, and they are so overwhelmed. So to hear that Pace is coming out and actually citing these guys for overgrown vegetation just made their neighbors extremely happy. Commercial properties, I do think he's citing them, but I can't confirm that. I think I confirmed that with him, but I can't remember right now. Yes, pace can be bad. I remember Jan and Mallory behind us. Here we have an elderly couple. He was in a wheelchair. She could barely walk. They were cited by Pace. They literally went before the judge, a man in a wheelchair and his wife who could barely walk. And the judge basically says, I don't give a shit. You're painting your house. You figure it out, or else I'm hauling your ass into jail. Yes, it was that shocking. So Eric Bronson got his guy and they just threw a coat of paint on it just to get the city off their back. So yes, it can be horrible. And no city should treat their residents like that. But this is not that, to my knowledge. So I'm really heartened. I do want to say that there is a house on Oxford where the woman had passed. Her house was in really bad shape. She was very elderly, and her son now is kind of taking over the house, even though he lives in Redondo, and I helped them out. I am working with Bales and the son to find house colors and because he wants to paint them historic colors, and to get that approval. And so Bales, as long as he knows that the son is working on it, which I'm actually communicating that to Bales, then Bales is completely happy. And so again, he doesn't want to be ignored, but as long as he knows that the residents are working with him and they have a plan, then he's totally fine. He just wants to know there's a path of a plan for action. So that's what I tell people when they call me. Then they have time to develop a plan. They're not going to get fined after 30 days, but if they ignore him, it's a possibility that they will. And especially if they're, mouthy with him or whatever. It's like any city agency.
Yeah.
You don't want to be mouthy with a cop. It's like, yes, sir. Okay, we're going to work for it. Yes, my house has chip paint or my lawn is overgrown. We'll work with you, and we're going to do something. And here's the plan.
Okay. So, when did this all start in Harvard Heights?
I will tell you when I got the first. Oh shit! I just had it. Give me 1 second.
I did a *9, Laura. Did it show up my hand raised?
No. So
can you please put those? Can you put those census tracts in the chat, please?
I don't have the census tracts. That's one of the. No, I'm sorry, Steve. You said
mid July
of this year.
Yeah.
So in this fiscal year, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
Because for anyone who doesn't know, the fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th. Okay. And Teresa, I'm sorry, I don't know how to know when you want to say something, but at the moment I do know that Donna, then Steve Peckman have their hands raised, and then I'll come back to Teresa. And let me know, for everybody, you still want this chart up? Yes, no? Okay, I don't know.
No,
Donna.
I don't think it's necessary anymore.
Okay, that makes it easier for me to not have the chart up. Okay, so Donna, then Steve.
I just wanted to say, quite some time ago, 6-8 years ago, we got Pace along West Adams with those businesses. I think you remember too, Laura. We got little or no support. They did little or nothing with auto mechanic businesses. The cars were sitting in the neighborhood and all over the sidewalk. They still are. Nothing ever happened. They came out, did nothing, and I'm appalled by what I'm hearing for.
Well, was that a PACE effort? Or was
Yes,
that
it
something
was
else?
definitely PACE.
Hmm.
They offered it to us, and it happened. They went along Adams with some of the auto mechanic issues that we were dealing with, and that's been quite some time ago. I
Yeah,
did
and
want
you're talking
to
about west of Crenshaw.
yeah, going toward Fairfax. A lot of them we were
Right,
able to get by other means help.
right.
The other thing is, I agree with Steve, and I wanted someone from building and safety or whoever is in charge of what is happening to
Yeah.
talk to us or to get that type of
Yeah.
response through the council district, because I know how they are. We've had to fight them for everything that's ever happened.
Okay. Well, I've been given the name Sean Esbach as the person in charge of the program citywide. So I will see if he's available to come talk. Steve Peckman
I would like to go after Teresa, please.
or Teresa.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, you mentioned that the inspector that you spoke with said that they were conducting this evaluation based on census tracts. If we could find out what the exact tracts are.
Yeah, I would like to know. No, so just so everyone understands, my perspective is I'm all about transparency. I'd like to know, when the program started again, what census tracts, what are the other 3 neighborhoods which are not here? How long is the program going to last? Will it go to another neighborhood? I mean, I just want to know how it got approved. I'm not necessarily mad about it, although again, I get concerned if somebody can't afford to take care of what they're cited for, how is it then handled? That'd be another question that I'd ask building and safety. But yes, these are the questions. These are not answers. Steve Peckman.
Thanks. I don't want to prolong this much more, but I just want to say that if they are going to Jefferson Park and within the HPOZ, I would hope that DBS, if they're citing people for construction issues like paint or other issues dealing with the facades of the house, that they're also telling folks that there's a grant program available to help them repair their house, right? NHS is providing up to $10,000 in grants. And so if they're not telling them that that resource is available, that's really negligent. So again, I don't want to protract this much longer because I think we've covered it all. But I think it's really important to have DBS at a high level come and talk to us. They can answer all of the general and specific questions.
Okay, and if it's okay with everyone, I mean, we don't need to take to the board a request that we then have somebody from building and safety come, but I assume it's okay that I draft that email request, and
that would be great.
I'll have Steve and Teresa kind of review it so that, if I'm being too snarky, they'll tamp me down, and I'll send it out. But I have the person who I'm supposed to make the request of. And I was directed to that person from the head of all code enforcement at building.
Understood. That would be great if you could do that. Thank you.
Okay, and I do want to just say one other thing on the cost factor, though. I just 2 months ago had just the south side of my porte cochere gable, so the gable end headed facing south, painted for a lot of reasons, but it gets so much sun, so it did have peeling paint. I was not cited, but I want to tell you that the paint alone was about $400 because paint's really expensive, and the total cost was just under $1,000, but it was just for the gable, right? And yeah, I use quality paint, and yeah, it needed color matching for mine, but this is what concerns me. If somebody ends up, who doesn't have, money to do, because, paint is now $60 to $80 a gallon.
A lot of folks don't have money.
I understand. Well, I don't have a lot of money, but I was only doing this one piece.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else on this topic? I understand what the marching orders are. Obviously, part 2 of this will probably be in the new year. Probably not in calendar year 2024, although not for sure, but probably. All right. Next item is follow-up to previous cases. If there is follow-up, Steve has his hand up.
So I have a question about a previous case. I don't know if it went to the board yet, but the housing project at 8th and Jefferson that we talked about, I think it was at the last meeting.
It'll go in January.
Okay, great. I will try to attend that meeting. Thank you.
Not going December.
Okay.
I say that, but I will check with the planner just to make sure that the timing on this is not expedited. And that's 2800 2800 West Jefferson Boulevard. And also the governing board in January, I have a crystal ball that says it's not on Thursday, January 2nd. Because, we'll be, I don't think we could get quorum. So I don't know when the January board meeting is, but I'm pretty sure it's not that day. Donna.
I wanted to ask about our letter, whether it had ever happened, the one regarding McCarty.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel that it did not, but I'm sorry, I haven't been well, and Paula's out of state at the moment. So I thought, anyway, I think it did not get sent. So but I can't even verify that with Paula right now. And she is not.
Can we sort of set a time that we can find out? Because I'm asking too many times and I don't want to keep on asking.
I understand. Well, she's not here. She's not back. I mean, I could just send it as if it had never been sent, I guess. I don't know.
You didn't get a response, so I'm sure even if you did send it.
Well, I wouldn't have gotten the response if Paula sent it. Paula would have gotten the response. So this is what I'll do. I know I cannot reach her. But I can send or resend, since we don't know which it is, from the Gmail, and at least then I would see a response. So, Steve Heckman, you're muted.
So I would just like to report that regarding the Windsor Village HPOZ project.
Yeah, because I haven't seen any response on that either.
Yeah, well, so our board, of course, supported this committee's recommendation, and a letter was sent. And I just want to report that Nandisi also reviewed that project and sent a letter as well. So it's nice to see multiple neighborhood councils supporting another neighborhood's fight about overscaled, overmassed, over everything projects that are being built within historic zones. So again, thank you to this committee and to the board for moving that forward.
Well, I will say, Steve, what was striking is that when Nandisi sent their letter, it was to the same people, right? There's suddenly been this flurry of responses that we did not get. So I'm not sure why.
I don't know. Well, I saw responses from the council office, from Yaroslavsky's office. We did not see any response from CD10. Is that what you're saying?
I think we sent ours to the Yaroslavsky as well. Did we get a response?
No.
I'm saying because I was copied, I don't even know why I was copied on the Nandisi letter, as were you. There was a flurry of reply all responses, including from Council District 5.
Yes, that they were acknowledging that they received the letter.
Right.
I don't recall ever receiving an
Exactly. We didn't get the same flurry of response, so I don't know
Right.
why.
But we didn't get a response from our own council office, as far as I know.
Well, there's that, but anyway.
I'm more concerned about our own council office than Yaroslavsky.
Okay. I understand. Other cases, let's see. So we already reported Teresa on 1848, right? And
Yeah.
okay, so is there have any other what did happen at Plum this week was that the grouping of the different housing element cases, I mean, initiatives, all went to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee at, City Council on Tuesday in a special meeting. And it sounds like still moving forward with the same option 3. I've kind of lost track, but it sounds like it's moving forward to City Council just like that. Unfortunately, on the adaptive reuse ordinance, which is packaged in with all of those, the language changed. We wrote a letter a year and a half ago. I mean, this has been something that's been dragging out a long time. So UNNC is was definitely in support of the adaptive reuse ordinance would make citywide older buildings could be by right used for adaptive reuse. But in the original language, it gave special circumstances to historic resources, not just designated historic resources, but identified historic resources. They've taken out the phrase identified, and it's only the special circumstances, which were non-conforming rights, are only now for designated resources. I'm not sure, that came up at the last minute meeting. Somebody read it, said, whoops, it's missing. I don't know why. I don't know who had objected. It's disappointing, but there was no real way for me to suddenly weigh in on behalf of UNNC with a community impact statement, because our initial approval was not for a CIS. It was for a letter, So there was no way to suddenly scramble. And I just don't know why, because one would hope that a historical building, even if it's just identified as one, should be allowed to use, say, the state historical building code and not have to conform with up-to-date, code compliance. Anyway, but it's moving forward to council without that language. So that's just what it is. And anything else? Anybody else? Okay, well, you've got to go, but I think we all have to go. So if there are no other updates and old business or anything, we can adjourn. Okay, and so I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you.
Bye.